Hello, fellow crafters. This is Yana Smakula for SimonsSaysTM.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana video. In this episode, I have a unisex sending love card featuring a ton of colorful die cutting using Simon's AMPERSAND words coordinating dies and some hot foiling. Here's a look at the STM set we'll be using today. I will actually only use the large, solid AMPERSAND stamp to emboss it in clear on black cardstock. But I wanted to show you this set so we can see the size. I personally love huge sets like this, as the elements from those sets easily take center stage on a card and you don't need to add much else to your project. I've looked through my leftover colored cardstock basket and picked several sheets of colored cardstock. This is cardstock from Simon Says Stamp as well as Hero Arts, as these are my two favorite brands for colored cardstock in terms of quality, cardstock quality, and also color. Step number 1 is, of course, die cutting. I'm going to die cut a large ampersand from each of the colored cardstock sheets that I had picked. I'm using my Deep Sea die cutting machine by Jane Davenport from Spellbinders to do the die cutting, but any die cutting machine will work here. The ampersand has a little heart die connected to it. I did not disconnect it from mine, as there really was no need to do that. And in fact, I actually like that I was cutting out both the ampersand and the heart out in a single pass. I'm saving all of these hearts for future cards. Here's a look at all of the die cut pieces. I've skipped filming the die cut part, as it's just repeating the same process over and over. I've stacked the ampersands one on top of the other and topped everything with a bold black die cut. The black ampersand is where I want to do the heat embossing to add some more color, make the black more black, I guess, and also to add glossy shine. I've placed the die cut into one of the negative cardstock pieces that I have left over from my die cutting, and I placed that inside a mini Misty stamping tool. Next, I align the ampersand stamp over the die cut and close the lid of my Misty to mount the stamp. You can do it the other way around. Heat emboss the image first and die cut it later. I wanted to have all of the die cutting done first, so that's why I did it this way. Next, I used anti-static powder tool and treated the die cut to eliminate any grease and oils from my fingers and my skin, and also to eliminate any static that I might have had on the die cut. Although honestly, it's not as important here. I'll be using a clear embossing powder with a huge solid image, so it doesn't matter if embossing isn't going to be perfect. It just won't be visible. The imperfections will not show. I guess it's more of a habit for me now to use this anti-static powder every time I do heat embossing. Next, I inked up the stamp with Simon's clear embossing ink and stamped it, making sure to press firmly all over the image to transfer the ink onto the paper. I poured clear embossing powder onto my die cut, and then I used my heat tool to melt the powder in place. This gave me a somewhat of a glossy finish to my die cut. I quite liked the look, but I wanted the gloss to be more solid, so I repeated the process. I placed the die cut back into my Misty, I inked the stamp with clear embossing ink, stamped it on the die cut, and covered the ampersand with clear embossing powder again. You can build up and add more layers to have more gloss and shine on your die cuts if you like. And this is the beauty of using a Misty tool. It easily allows you to do that. Moving on, I started working on a sentiment for my card. Since I had a lot of bold colors and the overall design was pretty bold, I wanted something classy to go along with it. So I decided to do hot foiling. I picked Sending Love Glimmer Hot Foil Plate from the Spellbinders Everyday Sentiments Glimmer Plate set, and also gold foil. Since the top ampersand was done in black, I decided to use black cardstock for foiling. I trimmed a piece of gold foil to size, just slightly larger than my plate. Next, I used a piece of washi tape to tape the glimmer plate onto the paper using my hinge method. I flipped the plate out of the way, added the foil in place, made sure it was aligned, and then flipped the plate back into place. I brought my Glimmer hot foil system. I had it heating up on the side of my desk, so now it's nice and ready. It's good and hot. I placed the paper with the Glimmer plate on the Glimmer hot foil machine. I pressed the timer button, and then I added the shims on top. Now, when it comes to foiling, I always like to add one extra cardstock shim to increase the pressure, but this is just something that works best for my machine. With foiling, you kind of have to play around a little bit and see what is best for your die-cutting machine to get optimal results. Next, I followed the Glimmer machine instructions and I ran it through my die-cutting machine to foil. You need to remember to go slowly here, and voila, our foiled sentiment is ready. What I love about this cardstock from Simon Says stamp, by the way, is that I always have great foiled results on it. I used my tonic paper trimmer and cut the sentiment to a skinny strip. I like using the edges of that clear guide on my trimmer to align my sentiments to make sure that I have a straight cut. With all of the parts and pieces finished, I'm now ready to assemble the project. Now, this is not going to be a standard A2 card, but a slimmer, taller card. I've already made a card base that measures 3.5 by about 7 inches tall, but I will trim it down a bit later to be a better fit for the die-cut ampersands. I just don't yet know how tall the ampersands are going to be. And I also cut another panel from white cardstock, and this panel is just 1/4 inch smaller than the card base that I have for the card. Before I adhere anything to the card or to the panel, I need to adhere the ampersands together. To do this, I used grid lines off my paper pad. I taped the first ampersand down to the paper pad, taking the grid lines into consideration, and I used a piece of washi tape to do that. Next, I used glue and adhered each of the ampersands on top. The colors of cardstock I used are Sea Glass from Simon Says stamp. It's that bottom layer. Next one is AUDREY Blue, also from Simon. ADRIATIC from Hero Arts. Next we have Royal Purple from Simon. Azalea from Hero Arts. Burnt Orange from Simon. Sunshine, also from Simon. Mustard from Hero Arts. And Black for the top layer from Simon. Now this look is very much inspired by Laura Besson. I love her expert use of colored cardstock, and I think the cards she makes always look absolutely fabulous. Having adhered all of the ampersands, I used foam adhesive squares and foam mounted the cluster onto that white panel. And then I trimmed the panel to about 6 inches tall, taking the height of the ampersands into consideration. I also trimmed the card base to about 6¼ inches tall. I adhered the panel onto the card using more foam adhesive. I really like to add a lot of dimension to my projects. And then I added the Sending Love foiled sentiment over it, also using foam adhesive. Finally, I embellished the card using Stay Gold sequins. Here's a look at the finished project. I simply adore this bold, colorful design, and I love the way it turned out. If you make a card inspired by this video, we'd love it if you shared your project online and tagged us on social media. We always enjoy seeing what you guys are making. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye!